Hi guys, it's Nancy, and I have two more House Mouse stamps that are over at Spellbinders. In case you didn't know, House Mouse is now carried at Spellbinders. It is such a lovable, cute set, and it almost got discontinued until Spellbinders came in and saved them, which I'm thankful for because they are so adorable. So today I thought I would practice some of my watercoloring techniques. I'm going to be using markers, and we're going to use the House Mouse Party Time stamp. And I've already stamped it out on some watercolor paper with some VersaFine Clair Nocturne ink. So this is A2 size, 5.5 by 4.25. So you can see it's the whole card front size. There are two sentiments. One says happy birthday and the other one says party time. So I've used happy birthday on this one. And these are red rubber cling stamps, so you don't lose any of the fine detail. And then the second one is a little bit smaller stamp. This one's called Flying to See You. And I guess this little mouse is called Mud Pie. And the two sentiments for this one are you can do it and sending love your way. This one, I don't know, just reminded me of like a pet sympathy. I don't know. That's what I thought of. So let's get to watercoloring. I have a piece of paper towel, 2 water brushes, a little thing of water, and I also have my Corrine brush markers. These are great for watercoloring. And the paper that I stamped this out on is Northwood's Rubber Stamps watercolor paper. So I will link that down below for you guys. But you should be able to use any watercolor paper you have. All right. So normally what I like to do with the markers so that there isn't any kind of harsh lines is I like to scribble on my glass mat and then pick up the color and bring it over. So let's do that. The hardest part is deciding what color I want everything to be. So I'll start with this light neutral gray. This is 133. This is 131. I also have a piece of scrap watercolor paper so I can see how dark the colors are. Okay, it's 2 different colors there. All right, so it's this one, and this one. That one is almost black. Yeah, something's wrong with this marker. See how it's almost out of ink and it just dried out and concentrated its color. So I ordered another one. It's the exact same number, but this one is no bueno. Okay, so now that I have them correct, this is 131. This one's 132. And this one is 133. So I need to go backwards. So 133 is the lightest. So what I will do is scribble that down. You can go direct to paper, and then I'll pick it up with my watercolor brush. And because that's the lightest color, I'm going to color the whole thing in that one. Now the difference for me is if I go direct to paper and color it, you'll see the lines. So that's why I like to scribble on my glass mat or a silicone mat or a palette or something like that before I put my color down. I think it's just personal preference. So that one was 133. Now we're going to add a little bit of shading with 132, which is a little bit darker. Then 133 is our darkest gray. And these are small images, so you don't need to be too super precise. Okay, so I think he looks pretty good in gray there. Add a little bit more to his face here. Okay, pretty happy with that. All right, so now I'm going to add a little bit of pink to his ears, his hands, his feet. This is Soft Peach number 200, Soft Peach 1, number 200. And then Soft Peach 2, which is 201. Let's add a little bit of darker shading towards the inside of the ears there. Okay, I think he's coming together. All right, now we just need to color his little wings, his little makeshift wings. I'll tell you guys a really embarrassing story. I must have been, I don't know, under the age of 10. I'm going to say maybe 8. Whatever year the song Footloose came out. And I may have told you guys this story before, but at the time we were in Jersey City, New Jersey. My dad was in the military, so he was not around. My mom was working 2 jobs as a waitress and a hostess, so she wasn't around. And we lived in an apartment building, and it was my sister and I in the apartment, and then my grandparents were across the hall in their apartment, so like directly across the hall. So I was pretty, at that time, pretty mature kid until I did this stupid thing. I'm going to take some brown. I want these wings to look kind of cardboardish. So Praline 385. So, it must have been a weekend or something. I don't know. My sister and I were home. And I remember my grandfather was watching us, and he was like, I'm going to take a shower, watch some TV or something, don't get into any mischief, right? And I don't know where my sister was. I guess she was kind of with me because I think I blamed this on her. And to this day, everybody knows she didn't have any involvement with it. But to this day, she doesn't forgive me. She's like, you blamed me for what you did. But anyway, I really thought the power of the mind. See, this is how young I thought of this, because I still believe this, that the power of your mind, like you can control pretty much anything, right? And I was just being very naive, but trying to be very positive. And I thought, if I concentrate really, really hard, and I bet I can fly. I don't know if Superman was on TV or what I was on, but I just thought, if I jump out this window and concentrate really, really hard on flying, I can fly. And I think this is where my fearlessness came in, being a stupid kid. So I took a plastic grocery bag and put it over my shoulders, thinking that the grocery bag would open up and become a parachute. Now remember, I'm very young. I don't have any concept of weight, physics, that kind of ratio. Maybe I would have used a bigger bag if I did. But back then, I didn't know any better. I'm just adding a darker brown here. This is Sandstone 174. And just kind of blending that out just so it gives us a little bit of shadow on the inside there. So anyway, I put this plastic bag over my shoulders. We're 3 stories up in this apartment building. I don't know what kind of drugs my brain was on at that time, but I seriously remember thinking, if I concentrate hard enough, I'll be able to fly. And if I'm not able to fly, the plastic bag wrapped around my shoulders, just like this, is going to catch me and I'll be fine. And my grandfather was in the shower, and I remember my sister was next to me at some point, and she was like, please don't do this. Like, this is dumb. You're going to get hurt. And I was like, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to be fine. Just don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. And she didn't. She kind of backed up, and I jumped, you guys. Legit jumped. And I remember we had thrown some kind of a toy out the window, and it broke. I think it was a toy phone, like a plastic phone. And we threw it out the window, and it had broke. And I just kept thinking, like, I hope I don't land on the broken phone. Like, that would hurt if I landed on the broken phone and I got plastic pieces stuck on me. But anyway, I don't remember what happened. I think as soon as I smacked the concrete, I passed out. My sister said some guy, like, slammed on his brakes and, like, ran out to get me. They called 911. I got rushed in an emergency, ambulance. And I think I was, I know what happened. So when I got to the hospital, they x-rayed me. I didn't have any broken bones or anything. I was just bruised. They said I was extremely lucky for jumping out a 3rd-story building in Jersey and didn't break my legs, my butt, nothing, okay? Which I don't even understand how that happened. Somebody was looking out for me. I'm just thinking, like, if my kids would do something as dumb. But I was fearless. Like, I just had no fear to this. But I was so afraid that when my mom got to the hospital that I was going to be in trouble, that, of course, I put the blame on my little sister and said she pushed me. And I think I said, we were just hanging out the window and she pushed me. And I didn't think at the time, how much guilt that put on my poor grandfather, because he was in the shower. He was supposed to be watching us. And here I go jumping out the window. Could have died. Could have broke my legs. I could have been taken away by child services. I don't know what I was thinking. But, to this day, I have that kind of fearless attitude. I have this kind of jump and see what happens. What's the worst that could happen kind of thing. But the reason I bring up the song Footloose is because the girl next to me had a cassette deck, and the song Footloose had just coming out. Kenny Loggins, right? Again, this was in the 80s. I'm showing my age now. And she played that song nonstop, all day, all night. So every time I hear the song Footloose, I think about my little stay in the hospital. So the moral of the story is a plastic bag around your shoulders is not going to give you enough to slow down this. Maybe it did. Maybe that's why I didn't break my bones. Who knows? I never went back and did any kind of calculations on it. Somebody who's like a physicist will have to tell me. But it's not going to stop you enough that it's not going to hurt. I definitely was hurting after that. I was bruised up, like I said. So moral of the story number 2 is don't leave your children or grandchildren alone, no matter how good they are, no matter how much of angels they are. You never know what kind of dumb stuff they're going to do when you're in the shower. And number 3 is you got to be fearless, but you have to choose when to be fearless, right? So think about your consequences of being fearless. And I think a lot of times people make emotional decisions and they say things or do things or make, decisions and then later come to regret those decisions, right? So obviously, this was one of those times where I made a decision that I was going to jump out the window and nobody was going to stop me. And, I was going to learn to fly. I was going to teach myself to fly. Well, clearly, I did not learn how to fly. But I did learn that you should be fearless in life, but you should choose when you're going to be fearless. That's what I would say my moral of my story is. But yeah, that's my Nancy dumb flying story. Attempting to be Superman. Maybe, if I was watching Superman, it could have been. I mean, that was the Christopher Reeves era. He was the best Superman ever. I put a little teal on my little wrapper there. A little lime green here. My little, what do they call these? Noisemakers? I can hear the noise. I did a lot of dumb stuff as a kid. A lot of dumb stuff. And I was the good kid. I was the one who always came home with good grades. I would rather be in the house sitting in a corner somewhere reading. I never hung out with the bad crowd. I was involved in school activities. I was involved in after school sports. I did, chorus, yearbook, you name it. I loved school ever since I was little. I can remember just loving school. So I was never that problem child ever. But I don't know where this bravery, I don't even think I'd call it bravery. It's more stupidity. Kicked in at some point in my life, and it was like, oh, let's do dumb things. When I was learning to drive, my grandfather had given me $1,000 to buy a car. Now, this is in the 90s. $1,000, just like now, didn't get very far. And this lady sold me her car, and I think she did kind of bamboozle me. Maybe this is why I got into the car business. But the car had a cracked radiator. So I only had the car for a few months before it started smoking and giving me all kinds of problems. And I do think she knew. I think that's why she was getting rid of the car and trying to get, $1,000. And I didn't ask because, again, I was naive and I didn't know to ask. And my dad was not a mechanic. He didn't work on cars. So he didn't know to look. We just knew, okay, here's a car that I could get for $1,000. And I got $1,000 worth of car. And then, it blew up. So after it blew up, I said to my dad, I'm never going to drive another used car again. Forget it. It's not going to happen. I'm only going to get new cars. And at the time, I was going to school and working full time. And my dad said, well, I'm not going to help you. If you want to do this, you do this on your own. He said, you're going to have to make your own way. So I went car shopping. And I must have been, I don't know, I was 17 because I couldn't put the car in my name only. It had to go, my dad had to co-sign to put the car in his name. And I went around and I found the cheapest stick shift car I could find. And at that time, it was a Hyundai Elantra. It was as base could get. It didn't have power windows. It didn't have power, ooh, that is ugly. It's called cinnamon. That doesn't look cinnamon. It didn't have power windows. It didn't have power locks. I mean, it was as base as you could get in a car. And it was stick shift. I didn't know how to drive stick shift. My dad taught me how to drive, but he taught me to drive in an automatic. I did not know how to drive a stick shift. And I went to the dealership and said, I want your cheapest brand new car. This is how much money I have to put down. This is what my payments need to be. And, they were like, well, you're not 18 yet, so you can't enter into a contract. You're going to need to bring, your father along. Well, I negotiated the whole deal, and I said, my dad's not coming unless I get a deal that I agree to buy this car. And at that time, at 17 years old, I guess is when the wheels started turning for me to get into the car business because I negotiated everything with that guy. And went home to my dad and said, I need you to go to the dealership with me tomorrow. And he said, why? I told you I'm not going to give you any money. I'm not going to help you. And I said, Dad, I have all the money to put down. And they said, if your credit's good, and I knew my parents had good credit, and you co-sign for me, then I can get the car, and this is how much the payments are going to be. And I think it was like less than $200 a month. I think it was like maybe $140 a month or something dirt cheap like that. Boy, if I could get a $140 payment now. And my dad said, are you sure? Is this the car that you want? This is Sepia, by the way, 074. And I said, yeah, and there's one more thing. He goes, what? And I go, I can't drive it home. And he goes, you bought a car you can't drive? And I said, yeah, Dad, it's a stick shift, but it was the cheapest car they had. It's brand new. It's under warranty. And at that time, they didn't have the 10-year warranty. It was, the standard warranty. And I said, I told him I'm not buying anything else. I just want the car. It's under $200 a month. And with going to school and working, I can afford to pay it. And I'll pay you for the insurance. And my dad did. He went over to the dealership. He looked at the car. And he said again, is this the car you want? Are you sure you can afford it? You're not going to stiff me with it. And I was like, no, Dad, I can afford it. I want it. This is the one I want. So he did. He co-signed for me. And I did. I gave him the money every month on time to send the check out for my car payment. And I gave him extra every month for my car insurance because everything had to be in his name. And anytime that car needed, any kind of servicing done, that car went with me to college. And I would bring it home and say, Dad, I need an oil change or whatever. Like, I kept on top of it until I got my first real job and my first real car. But I'll never forget, like, I learned that responsibility from my dad. And now my son's 17 and he could care less about driving. He has no desire to drive. And now I'm looking at cars again. And even though I'm in the business, man, it's tough times right now. Cars they're expensive, right? So I'm debating, do I buy him a used car and then have to deal with all the things that could possibly go wrong that I don't want to think about him broke down on the side of the road, because cars are very overpriced right now, supply and demand. Or do I get a new car and I make him pay for a part of it, right? Because he's going to need to drive. He's going to need to go to school. He's going to need to get a job, all of these things. So I'm kind of torn right now. And I think the happy medium we are going to come up with is his dad has an extra older used car. And I think his father is willing to say, if you guys fix up the car, because it does need some maintenance on it. It's an older car. If you guys fix up the car, then you can have it. So I think that's where his father and I are with it now. Just until my son learns how to drive and understands the responsibility of driving and the costs associated with driving. And I am seriously afraid of what insurance is going to look like on these kids driving nowadays. I mean, insurance has gone up. Cars have gone up. Parts has gone up. Maintenance has gone up, right? Like, everything has gone up except our paychecks. So it's a tough world. Okay, I just took some water around there, and I'm going to take a light blue. Arctic blue is 264. Cool aqua is 204. I think we'll use this one. This is 264 Arctic blue. And I'm really trying to just saturate this background. And you guys have seen me do this before with clouds. And I don't want this to be overpowering. I just want a little bit of blue in the background there. But I don't want it to be like neat and perfect. Just want a little bit of color down. Now see, when the color gets too concentrated like that, that's when I need to add some more water and spread that out a little bit. But I thought, this reminds me, I don't know why, it just reminds me of Pet Sympathy. Like, this is a little angel coming down to escort the pet to pet heaven. I didn't realize my marker was bleeding all over my paper towel there. All right. I think that's a nice little ethereal scene there. What do you think? Just gotta let that one dry. It'll flatten out as it dries. All right, and then for this scene, I don't know. I think I want to add some like splatters of color on this one. So let me see if I can accomplish that with my skinny little stamping block. Just moving everything out of the way so when I splatter, the splatter isn't so hard to clean up. Okay, so got my water brush, and this particular water brush is like a little more wet than the other one. Got my little stamping block, and I'm just going to take some fun colors here. This is a nice deep dark purple. And I'm going to add lots of water to that. Yeah, there we go. Let's have some fun splatters here. And I think we'll also add, I really like that bright pink, so I think we'll add some of that pink. I got splatters all over me, which is why I tried to clean up my desk before I started splattering. And that fun hot pink, Cerise 375. Yeah, and just scribble some down. Add some water. Splatter some of that. And I think a pop of that neon green, which is apple. All right. Gotta be careful. Try not to smash my splats. Bring my heat tool in. All right, and then what I'll do is use some really good heavy adhesive to glue these down. So these stamps are available now, as well as many other of the House Mouse stamps. There's also a wonderful holiday collection. You're going to check that one out. And again, this little guy is called Flying to See You. Comes with the stamp, and then the 2 sentiments say, sending love your way and you can do it. And then the other one is called Party Time, and the sentiments say happy birthday and party time. So you can check these out at Spellbinders. If you had fun watching me make these and color them, or you just enjoyed my story, give me a thumbs up. I'd love it if you would consider subscribing to my channel. The links are going to be down below if you want to do any shopping. Thanks for watching, and keep on stamping. Bye, guys.